Another edition of Madden and Benz Unfiltered here at Trib Live. Thanks for joining us on a holiday for many. We are brought to you by Mike's Beer Bar on the North Shore. Meet me at Mike's for all the action going on over in Italy, including what's going on the hockey rink, of course. Team Canada, Team USA, the only teams to make it through the prelims completely unbeaten. Mark, has anything particularly impressed you or alarmed you about either Team USA or Team Canada?
I think Canada looks unbeatable. It wouldn't shock me if they went through the tournament without even having a one-goal win or overtime or whatever. I just think their firepower is too much. The disclaimer is that Binnington falls apart, but he didn't last year in the Four Nations, so I don't know, maybe he gets him through it then. I don't have a lot of faith in the guy, but I do have a lot of faith in a line with McDavid, McKinnon, and Celebrini on it, and I have a lot of faith in a second line that features Sidney Crosby. So I think Canada looks real impressive. I think the U.S. looks good, not great, but good. I think they can give Canada a game, but I honestly don't think they're in the same class. And even if they picked the proper roster and had guys like Robertson, Caulfield, and Hudson, I'm not sure that closes the gap very much.
What chance do you give Sweden of beating the Americans? 40%, 50%? What kind of number are you looking at there?
Probably like a third. I think if they played 3 times, Sweden would win once. Sweden's a good team. They really have not gelled at all. They haven't looked good in any of their 3 games, but that doesn't mean they can't hear.
One thing that concerns me a bit about the American team is they're not getting off the great starts. You know, in the first period, they're allowing teams to linger, to score. And if they're doing that against lesser competition, Canada's going to roast them, and that might be something that does get the Swedes to gel.
Yeah, if Sweden comes out, gets an early goal, oh, for sure. They could. I mean, it's a winnable game for Sweden. The problem with Sweden is they don't trust their goaltending. Gustafsson hasn't played well, the former Penguin prospect. And you can tell by the way they're playing in front of them that they don't trust them. They've kind of tempered their game a bit because they don't believe in the goaltending.
What else from the Olympics, Mark, and hockey in particular, specifically Tom Wilson, that injury that was, well, I don't know if that wasn't a typical Tom Wilson-related injury. Let's put it that way.
What, when Wilson hurt Fiala? The hit?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Tom Wilson shouldn't be there. I mean, it took John Cooper a game and a half to figure out he wasn't top 6 and drop him down the lineup. He shouldn't be there. And he fought and didn't get suspended. The Olympics have compromised themselves to get the NHL there more than I thought they would, to be honest. And there's so much stuff about the Olympics that just is a head scratcher. For example, the U.S. and Sweden both won their groups in women's hockey, correct?
Yes. Well, wait.
Why are they playing in the semis?
On the women's side, you're talking
about. Yeah, they both won their groups. Why are they playing in the semis?
Well, I don't know. I don't know how they got it structured on the women's side, to be honest with you.
However they got it structured, it's nonsensical. Because if there's 2 groups, the 2 group winners should be bracketed and not meet till the final.
Oh, because you're talking about like how they got it on the men's side where the line is open, like on the 3-6 line, regardless of who the upset is. It's not like you're playing the lowest seed if you're like if the 11 seed wins.
They don't reseed for the quarters, but they will reseed for the semis. Like I said, it's like they're picking everything out of a hat.
Well, they're trying to get the U.S. and Canada in both matchups. And honestly, they wouldn't have to, at least on the men's side, worry about that quite as much if the Russians were in it, because then the Russians would be a big draw.
Well, I mean, are they worried about draw? I mean, you know, the U.S. and Canada, that's only the North American networks. I mean, I don't know. I don't know what they're doing. I'm not sure they know what they're doing. I do know that in curling, somebody double touched after the hog line, and I don't know what that means, but it sounds erotic.
And it also sounds illegal. You're not supposed to do that. I heard about that one too.
AC/DC, touch too much.
So if you want to talk about the Olympics, please do so. Get your comments in now. I think Jake Gensel's popped and made some nice plays for Team USA, and Celebrini's really emerging on the Canadian side.
Well, I knew Celebrini was that good. The problem is he plays in Nowheresville in San Jose, you know, West Coast, late games, all that stuff. That's why nobody knows who he is, but those who love hockey know who he is. This is no surprise at all.
All right, Mark, so the continuation of going
by the way, Tim, I just, if anybody out there knows, because I've looked all over the place, How are the two group winners in women's hockey playing in the semifinals? Sweden and U.S. Somebody tell me.
Yeah, I don't know what allows them to do that aside from their desire to try to get Canada and the U.S. in there. Although Sweden might be as dangerous as Canada this year on the women's side, it looks like, because Canada's women's team didn't look too sharp in a couple of situations. Beyond
Well,
just
that's my point. My point is the U.S. is clearly the best team in this tournament, and they're playing a dangerous semi while Canada gets an easy one.
Mark, what about the continuation of this trend of people going after Ben Roethlisberger in retirement? Now it's Steven Nelson, of all people, a cornerback. This time, not because he's a bad teammate, not because he's a bad guy, as alleged by Joey Porter. This time it's Nelson saying that the Steelers screwed up by working hard to keep him and by letting that defense fall apart in 2021.
Well, yeah, I have looked at the Steelers collapse, at the turn of the last decade as paying Ben Roethlisberger over keeping Steven Nelson. If they had kept Steven Nelson and found the money to do that, they clearly would be a much better team to this very day. I mean, that's ridiculous. I mean, although I will say this, Tim, as you know, Ben was my neighbor the first 3 years he was in Pittsburgh. Somebody keyed my Cadillac then, and I wonder if it was him.
Well, probably at this point, you would have to think it's him, right? We go through this wave every 5 years, it feels like, with Ben. The last time we did this is when Antonio came off the rails. And before people realized how truly insane Antonio was, there was this flock of former Steelers that was echoing whatever Antonio said online. And then everybody realized that Antonio was a nut job, and people kind of fell in line behind Ben again.
Now Antonio's defending Ben.
Yeah, I know. Exactly.
Where is he anyway? Is he in Saudi? Is he
I think he's back.
Run away from home?
No, I think he's back in the States, although I don't think he controls that Twitter timeline all by himself. I think he's got.
No, I don't either. I think actually, it doesn't take much of an attention span or intelligence to do Twitter, but it might be beyond AB.
Yeah, but when AB is doing it, because you can tell by the syntax, you can tell by the grammar, you can tell by the spelling. This is an AB tweet, and then when it's something witty, creative, and funny, it's when somebody else does it.
You can tell it by the illiteracy to narrow those words down to one. And the Ben thing, I wrote a notes column for the Trib where I note that what kind of town is this? What kind of sports town? When the quarterback who was most responsible for winning the last two Super Bowls, he was the number one catalyst on those teams en route to 2 rings. The town vilifies him every time there's a trigger, but Cam Heyward and TJ Watt, who have one playoff win between them, are uncontested heroes, even now that Cam's clearly an ass.
Well, even so, the Steven Nelson dialogue here, what he said was, he's rattling all the names from that defense off that ended up leaving, and he's talking about Cam Sutton and Mark Barron. If you play defense in Pittsburgh, it's like carte blanche to be a hero, and that's just not the case. Like I said, those numbers associated with that defense, there's much a reason why the team collapsed is the offensive play that year. They allowed 332 yards the last 6 games.
Well, Tim, the more we get into whatever the new age we're in of sports fans, why we root for who we root for, it's become very apparent that Pittsburgh sports fans are stupid. And by way of evidence, they listen to me.
What about their feelings on the Pirates? How does that connect?
Well, what I think is really going to be funny about the Pirates is, especially with the fans that cover the team in the media, because they're all fans, as we've noted. The prediction for how many wins, everybody's going to predict between, 83 to 88, and 73 to 78 is more realistic. They're going to go 10 wins too high.
I'm going to be in the middle on that. Actually, I picked them at 81. I think they're going to get to exactly 500. 10 games is a big leap.
Oh, don't get me wrong. If you made me pick an exact number, I'd pick 77 or 78.
Okay, so we're kind of in the same ballpark.
And I think that if they use Konnor Griffin at shortstop and he turns out to be good right away, they could have a winning season, could contend for a playoff berth, but I think they've got to do that. I think they've got to take that educated risk and start the season with Griffin at shortstop. And if it doesn't pay off, fine, put him back in AAA, where he's never been, by the way. He's only had 21 games in AA. But if this kid is the special talent that everybody seems to think he is, that is a gamble worth trying, and not an unreasonable one either.
Another thing that came up, I was on Channel 4 last night. We talked about this, and it's one of the few things that hasn't already been talked to death, it feels like, with the Pirates coming up in spring training, and that's the catching situation. Do you bring Henry Davis along because he's actually developed into a good defensive catcher, even though he can't hit his weight, and because Paul Skeens likes throwing to him? Should that be enough to keep him going as the regular catcher, at least on Skeens starts? And who else is it? Bubba, I think, likes throwing to him too.
Well, yeah, it doesn't matter what the right move is. Skeens and Chandler like throwing to him.
So bring him along on up to the big club, you're saying?
He's going to catch those games, period. And the other games, I mean, I don't know, Joey Bart can hit a little bit. They might trade him. But I think Davis is going to get the majority of the time at catcher because they like his defensive work and how he handles the pitchers, which is absurd because when they drafted him first overall, let's not forget, Tim,
right,
they did so for his bat, weren't really all that concerned about his defense.
Yeah, they're so concerned about his defense, they put him in right field until they realized he couldn't play defense there. And now all of a sudden he's ahead on defense and behind when it comes to hitting. So go figure. But, the other thing about Bart is Bart also served a decent purpose last year on days when he couldn't catch and they were facing a lefty. He could be the DH. But now that they have Ozuna, that's been neutered. So he's not as important to them, but maybe he can serve a purpose somewhere else for the exact same role for another team.
Yeah, I don't know. What would you get for Joey Bart?
Oh, not that. Maybe a fifth starter, which, as you pointed out in the podcast, they now suddenly need.
Yeah, they screwed that Oviedo deal to Boston for the, what's his name, the password.
Mm-hmm.
That's a bad deal. That's just a bad deal.
Well, they also kind of minimized his potential impact by getting the other kid, was it Mangum, from the Rays in the Lau trade too.
Yeah, I don't care why they done it. They gave away a fifth starter and got insignificant return.
I keep looking at the division that they're in and seeing that as a potential too to help them, but I'll retreat back to the point that I made earlier, which is it's one thing to say that they can be 10 wins better, because being 10 wins better from 71 wins ain't so hard. Those next 3, 4, 5 that you would need to get to probably be a wild card team in the 84 to 86 game range, those are the hardest wins they're going to have to get.
Yeah, I think the Griffin gamble is their best shot at it. I don't see any other move they can make outside of a trade which would illogically favor them, where they could make the leap to a playoff team. But Mark my words, everyone in town will predict them to be a playoff team because they're all fans. They cover the team, but they're fans.
Back to the Steelers, you predicting them to take a quarterback?
I'm beginning to think it could happen. Ty Simpson, the 21st pick, the kid from Alabama, because I think Art's going to want a big pop at the podium at the draft, and there's no bigger pop than a quarterback pop. And I think after mangling the position ever since Ben retired, not least with the drafting of Kenny Pickett, I just think he wants a line of succession at the position. I think he wants something clear-cut, which will be Rodgers in 26 and then whoever they draft in 27.
One thing I was thinking after you said that, it sort of struck me, was I don't even know if it's so much about getting the big pop on the stage if they do have a quarterback available. For Art, it might be avoiding being booed. Like, that might be the bigger catalyst.
I don't know. I think if they got a number one receiver, I think he might get booed going up to the podium. And then does it matter who he picks?
That's true. Well, he wouldn't be the one picking it. I don't think they'd put an owner out there unless it's Jerry Jones. Jerry might go out there himself, but I think they'd put...
Oh, I disagree. I think Art's at the podium in Pittsburgh for the first pick.
You think it would be Art and not like Mean Joe Green or somebody like that? Or
Bettis? Art and somebody, but Art's going to be up there.
He might be on stage to give him the jersey. Yeah, you're right about that.
Art's going to be at
no,
the
actually,
podium.
I'll take that back. Goodell does every first-round pick unless he yields the stage. I don't know if he might yield the stage.
That's right. But
I mean, Goodell would be up there. But regardless, the point is, when I say he, I should say the emblem, the logo, the team. He doesn't want the team to get booed if they pass on a quarterback that Pittsburgh talks itself into over these next 2 months.
Tim, Art's going to be involved in some capacity because he's smart. He can do stuff, not like people say dumb.
That's right. You're allowed to say that here. You can say that here.
No, I say that on the radio show too. I just don't invoke the name.
The name, right. Gotcha. No, I think you're right about the wide receiver. Now, if it's me, if I'm some drunk Yinzer in the stands watching the draft or wherever they're going to be, at the point or on the north side or wherever, I am booing if it's a quarterback. I got to be convinced about Ty Simpson. I want a wide receiver.
But Tim, you're talking about a bunch of yokels who are going to be half in the bag. All they understand is quarterback anyway. Heck, half the people who do our job, all they talk about is quarterback.
Well, that's why I'm saying that they're probably going to get talked into Ty Simpson the same way everybody talked themselves into Pickett, even some that doubted that pick, this time of year.
One guy talked himself into Pickett. Tomlin, one guy.
He did do that, and I think that did happen as the draft process went along, too. I think he was trying to.
I've had people in the organization or close to the organization tell me openly one guy made that pick. Not even like, how they like to, combine everybody into one organism so nobody gets blamed? I've had people who were part of the organism tell me it was one guy.
I think Tomlin was trying to talk himself into Malik Willis earlier in the draft process and couldn't. And then he talked himself into Pickett instead. And now the irony is that Willis is available and might have actually learned something in Green Bay. Matt Williamson is real high on the Willis thing. I don't know if he's been on your show and said that, but he said that to me when I was filling in for you last week.
Yeah, but the Steelers won't get him. In fact, I really don't know who is going to get him.
Yeah, it's a good point. I'm trying to think of where else is in real desperate quarterback need.
If Miami turns on Tua, but they'd have to eat a lot of dead cap. Then again, if you're not going to play him, I don't know. If I'm the Steelers, I get Willis. I forget about Rodgers. I get Willis. I draft a quarterback this year next. That's my plan, and it's a better plan than the one they will have.
All right, let's get to some questions here. This is Gary Burrito. Do the Pirates have a decent closer? Who's in line to fill that role? I feel like it's going to be by committee unless they go with Santana and Montgomery?
I think it's going to be Santana.
And Soto?
Yeah, and Montgomery. Well, Soto's a lefty, correct?
Yeah.
I think it won't be by committee, but I think you'll see some lefty-righty for sure.
Let me get to another one here because I just lost the studio.
And people act like that happens all the time. No, usually a closer is just a closer period, regardless of lefty-righty. I think you'll see some switching about with the three names we just mentioned.
Here's John, who checks in about the whole catching situation. Bucks have a decision at catcher. Do they trade Bart, and do they try to move Endy to a new position, especially with Flores in the wings? Yeah, Flores is the wild card to me, especially since he hit pretty well at AAA last year.
Yeah, Endy's a bum. They just need to forget about him. Another in a long line of disappointments.
The thing with him is, they've tried so hard to justify the hype surrounding him that they're running out of different ways to do it.
Well, he's just a bum now. And, I love when people talk about how their farm system's good now. Well, it had better be because they've whiffed on so many guys, be it Endy, Henry Davis, etc.
This guy, DePhil, wants to talk about a little bit more the Tom Wilson fighting in the Olympics situation.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm with you. It's a fight. He should be suspended. Everybody knew this risk when he was coming in. Like, you put him on the team, you knew that he was going to potentially burn a game by fighting somebody.
What was funny was he at first tried not to fight and he got ragdolled for a second, which was hilarious.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
That was wonderful.
And I think that's what motivated him to, he was trying to hold back, and then once that happened, he couldn't take it.
You don't often see French aggression.
Hey, by the way, former Pittsburgh Penguin farmhand Justin Adamo from the Nailers and from Wilkes-Barre and Robert Morris had assists on the only two French goals as they were being overrun yesterday.
Yeah, good for that kid. Well, not the first time the French have been overrun. But they played Germany in the elimination round, right?
Yes, I do. Where does that battle end, Mark? Dunkirk? How does that work out?
Historical matchup. I wrote my trip column. I go, tell France to watch out for Germany forechecking through the Ardennes.
Well, I was watching some of the highlights, and I don't know where I saw this highlight. I don't know what feed it came in on, but there was a British guy doing play-by-play of France versus Canada. I want that guy on the call of France versus England. That's where it feels most appropriate to me.
You mean France-Germany?
France-Germany, yeah, exactly. And what is that, the 6-11 game?
I don't know. It's an elimination round game, but yeah, what did you think of Kachuk, Chirp, and Drysdale? A lot of people were dying on. I thought it was funny.
Well, I didn't hear it. What was you talking about, Brady, or was it Keith?
No. Matthew Kachuk and Drysdale were chirping each other, and Drysdale's lost the 2 straight finals to Kachuk, and he said, Leon, always the bridesmaid, never the bride.
Oh, you could make it out on the audio?
Yeah, that's pretty funny.
I know it was Matthew who said it.
Yep.
Yeah, that's a good chirp. I mean, it'd be funnier if he said it in German and somebody could translate it for us if you learned how to say it. But
Well, Draisaitl obviously speaks English, but yeah.
No, actually, his English is really good. I talked to him in the locker room when the Oilers came through this year. He does have good English. He's really not only that, he's got a little bit more personality, I think, potentially than McDavid. Don't you?
Well, who doesn't?
Yeah, well, yeah, I guess that's fair.
That's a big problem with the NHL. That's why Sid's still the face of the league. McDavid's a sourpuss, and so is McKinnon, kind of.
Yeah, McKinnon doesn't have a ton of personality either. I mean,
now the athletes of today, and I mean in all the sports, they don't understand their responsibility to the sport. I had a note in my Trib column about how the NBA, the players have such contempt for the audience. And Michael Jordan, who's the biggest egomaniac ever, did not. He always felt it was important to play every game because somebody who bought a ticket to see him play that night that might never have before.
I watched I think one of those mini games of the All-Star game last night. It's the first time in a while the All-Star game was more interesting than the dunk contest and the three-point contest, which I forgot was happening. I didn't even put either of them on.
Well, the top guys don't do the dunk contest no more.
Yeah, it used to be like a badge of honor. I mean, like there were one or two blips where it got interesting, like, Levine and Aaron Gordon, but that's even going back a little ways now.
Yeah, but nobody knows who those guys are. It used to be Dr. J and Jordan in the dunk contest, Larry Bird in the three-point contest. The stars wanted to do it. Today's NBA stars feel no accountability to the game, to the fans, to anybody. You ever hear Kevin Durant talk? Every single word of Kevin Durant's mouth confirms he's an ass.
Yeah, I've never heard him talk. I can't stand following him on Twitter. I mean,
he's the worst, and he is emblematic.
And James Harden ain't great either, and that manifests every time he gets traded.
Plus, that beard bugs me. You know what? I'm watching that ABA documentary on.
Oh, is it out?
Yeah. I watched the first 20 minutes today. It's tremendous. This
guy says if France-Germany ends in a tie, it would be Verdun.
I don't get it.
Is that World War I?
I don't get it.
This guy says, I enjoyed watching Kachuk telling Draisaitl, always the bridesmaid, never the bride. I'm trying to think about if there's a potential upset team out there in the medal round, the elimination round, who it would be. Slovakia, maybe?
Well, see, that's what's been boring about this tournament, Tim, to be perfectly honest. I think it has been boring. No matter how much the usual suspects yell best on best at the top of their lungs, Russia ain't there. The only marquee game in the entire preliminary series was Sweden and Finland. I mean, there were some good games, but not name games. And Slovakia is the only real surprise team. It's boring.
Verdun was 1916, December. So, yeah, World War I.
Yeah, what happened there? I mean, Tim, if I don't know, then it's a bad reference.
The longest battle in modern history from, February of 1915 to December of 1916.
Yeah, Stalingrad was longer, but good try.
This comes from John, who says, will Dubas buy or sell at the deadline, or should he do nothing?
He'll probably make a minor upgrade using like a 5th-round pick, but he won't sell any future to try to win now because they can't win now. They could win a series now, but nothing worth sacrificing anything significant for.
Durf says the Pirates catchers are garbage. If you can have one off bat in your lineup, but it can't be, 3 or 4 times a rotation.
Well, Tim, that's why they absolutely have to take the gamble with Konnor Griffin at shortstop. If you're trying to win, it's at the point where, if you're worried about his development, I mean, he seems foolproof. Again, I'm not a big believer that if a kid comes up, like Ben Kendall, if he had failed and had to go back to junior, I don't think he would have killed himself. Okay, I don't think his career would have been over. Same thing with Griffin. If he comes up and doesn't do well, then you send him down and he'll be okay. But right now, they have a bottom third of the order that stinks. And a few of their guys in the top 6 can be compromised by lefty-righty, and significantly. So you need to take that risk if indeed you are serious about trying to make the playoffs.
I always kind of think about what Bob Walk says in these conversations about the good defensive catcher or the good play calling catcher. he says it always meant to me more when my catcher hit a 3-run home run than when he caught the pitches that I was throwing.
Yes.
So I do think there's some merit there. Oops, do we lose Mark? I think we lost Mark. We'll try to get him back. Let me do a couple more questions, and then we'll get out of here if Mark doesn't get back in time. This guy says, Mark and he says, Scam and TJ are not heroes. Scam has more hold-ins than playoff wins, talking about Cam Heyward. Yeah, that goes back to that conversation about those guys being idolized and held up because they're all pro defensive players as opposed to what's everybody's ripping Ben Roethlisberger for, which is whether or not he was a good teammate. But I do know this, he won Super Bowls. This guy also adds that wide receiver, that pick will just be as loud as Simpson. He probably would get booed. Look, the wide receiver thing is pretty obvious to me. The wide receiver thing is not only they need one in the draft, they probably need one via trade or via free agency as well. We're talking about, and I saw the quote from the radio station in Memphis about Calvin Austin saying that he wants to come back. We got Mark back, but this guy was talking about the wide receiver versus quarterback draft thing, Mark. If Calvin Austin is back, he shouldn't come back as anything more than a number 4 wide receiver. They got to draft one, sign one, maybe trade for one, or draft 2 and pick up one in free agency.
That sounds like F. Barry Kill.
That's right. First round, 4th round, free agent, and then have Austin be like a 4th guy.
I think that's exactly right. I think Calvin Austin probably sees himself as better than that, but he's wrong. If he comes back, he needs to be their number 4 option at wideout.
This guy follows up. He says Bob Walk is a Pirates mark and shill for his paycheck.
No, he's not. Shut the frig up, you ass.
Yeah,
Bob Walk is as good and as impartial a color commentator as there is in baseball. He's tremendous. He should be on the national stage.
Not only that, but he's also 100% correct about that point about the catchers too.
Yeah, I mean, you know what's amazing? There's so many marks and shills in the industry, particularly as involves the Pirates, and you pick out the guy who isn't, you're an ass.
This guy, Brian, says, did you see MLB is doing away with the strike zone on the TV feed because they have the challenge system in place?
Yeah, I did see that. Why would they do that? Why would they not think we want to see that?
Yeah, I don't know why either. So what, they just don't want the strike zone there until it's used in a challenge format?
They'll bring that back. There'll be an outcry against that. They'll for sure bring that back.
Yeah, that's like taking away the first down marker in football. Like, we want to know where it is, you know? Yeah. Let's get one more in from Gary, who says, why do we have to watch you guys' faces on this podcast? Can't it just be a picture of the city?
Well, because then I couldn't do this.
We could just have, the cardboard cutouts, but, I don't think, imagine what we're doing behind them. We could put up. Where's the cat, Mark?
She's notoriously uncooperative in situations like this.
We could just put up Clipper's face if we wanted to.
Yeah, it'd probably be more interesting.
We haven't seen Clipper in a long time. Has she matured in her older age?
No, well, she doesn't. She's 8 now. She doesn't jump on the counters and whatnot very much.
I was going to say, we used to be able to see her like over your left shoulder, where that little area is over your left shoulder.
The only thing she does now is, like, there's a ledge right by the front door looking down because you have to walk up from my front door.
Mm-hmm.
And she'll jump up on the ledge there so she can look through the transom on top of the door. That's about it.
Before we go, I'm potentially going to go to my first concert at the Sphere. How many have you gone to at the Sphere?
2 Eagles both times. Who are you going to see?
Either Metallica or Tool, because Tool might be going.
Well, is Metallica announced, or Tool hasn't announced, have they?
No, they're trying to go in 2027, and the word is...
Can Tool sell that place out?
I think for what the hype is created about the Sphere and the way they do their concerts, they might. They might get people who aren't huge fans of Tool just to go because of that.
You got to do like 9 shows minimum to make it pay off because of the expense involved in setting up the visuals.
Yeah, I think
that's what I've been told.
If it's only 9 shows, then yeah, they will. They'll do that.
Okay, well, good for them. And I know Metallica will do very well. I'm surprised GNR's never done there. They stayed out of America for 3 years, and I thought that was to set up a residency at the Sphere. But I heard Axl and Slash went to a gig there and didn't like it, so they're just doing a tour of America this summer.
What about like whatever iteration of Pink Floyd they can get together? Would that do well there?
Well, they're not going to do that, so that doesn't matter. And there's almost nobody left anyway. They could never get Gilmore and Waters together, so no. And I would have thought at one time Waters could do it by himself, like doing The Wall.
Mm-hmm.
But his political intrigue has not helped him in that regard, so I think that's a no-go.
And didn't he rip Ozzy too or something like that after he died?
Yeah. Basically said he was untalented and good riddance.
Yeah, well, I don't know. To me,
I'll tell you who could have sold out the Sphere is Ozzy.
Ozzy could have sold out the Sphere. Yeah, for sure. And actually, the visuals that could have gone along with some of Ozzy's work would have been perfect there too.
I think if Aerosmith gives it one more try, it'll be at the Sphere.
That would.
But I don't think they will either.
What's the word on his voice? On Steven's voice?
I don't know if there is any. I mean, Perry went out last summer with Chris Robinson on vocals with the Joe Perry Project. I don't think that was a good sign of Aerosmith moving forward. And you know what? That's okay. That's okay. Like maybe it's time to be done.
We're done right now. Mark is on the air today, even though it's a holiday, at 2:00. Do you have a President's Day monologue ready to go, Mark? Like Martin Luther King did?
No, I saved that. I always get mixed up with I Have a Dream, whether to do it on MLK Day or Martin Luther King's birthday, so I end up doing it twice.
Well, when is his birthday?
I don't know, but it's a big deal, right? He's Martin Luther King, so yeah, I do it twice. I don't know. I guess I could do the Gettysburg Address or something, but I'm not gonna.
It wasn't that long. When you look back at it, the Gettysburg Address was not that long.
7 years ago, they told us the Pirates would win again, and they still haven't. There you go.
All right, Mark and I will be back next week for Madden Benz Unfiltered. You can get the Madden Monday podcast. It's up right now. And you can also listen back to some of this on Mark's show later on today. This is brought to you by Mike's Beer Bar on the North Shore. Meet me at Mike's.